Well, hello and welcome to the Grow Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Vicky Laffey, and I make these podcasts because I want to pass on my wealth of knowledge and experience that I've accumulated over the past 10 years of me being an entrepreneur, so that I can help you launch and grow your own small business. Please remember to click subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. Okay, well, hello and everyone, and welcome to the Grow Your Business podcast. I'm your host, Vicky Laffey, and today we've got another one of our series of interviews. I'm very much looking forward to this one. We're talking to Dirk Van Der Werff, who lives just down the coast from me in a lovely little place called Hartlepool. And he is someone I've known for years from my business in the wedding industry. But Dirk also has a really lovely inspirational story for us. And I'm really looking forward to just sharing that with him. Dirk's going to talk about this, a business he created within the past few years, and also the sort of trials and tribulations he's faced and how he made money from it. This was a free product that Dirk created, a free newspaper, and so we're gonna talk all about this. But first of all, Dirk, thank you very much for your time today. Thanks for joining us.
No problem at all. I'm really looking forward to it. I like to talk. You'll find that out.
I'm sure you do. You know, it's a pleasure to have you on. So, Dirk, you and I have known each other for quite some time in the wedding industry, but within the past few years, you created something amazing, something that was very impactful on people's lives, something that really benefited the whole community around you, and that was Hartlepool Life, which was a free newspaper. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what made you and your other fellow directors kind of start this, and we'll take it from there. There's a story.
A lot of this story, I promise everything I'm going to say is true, because a lot of it is unbelievable. So the people who were involved with it, mainly we were involved with the Hartlepool Mail when the Hartlepool Mail was one of many successful regional newspapers 25 years ago. I worked for the Hartlepool Mail for 25 years. I started as an apprentice photographer and then became a photographer. Then I became chief photographer. And before I left in 2003, I was picture editor. Mm-hmm. You know, they took it from black and white to color, from negatives to digital, ISDN to internet. And then, like virtually every other regional newspaper, from Berwick down to Middlesbrough in this area, newspaper managements pretty much gave up on newspapers and decided the digital dollar was where it was at. Everything was online, and badly online, in my opinion. And so it proved to be true. Everything that people who worked in the newspaper industry thought at the time was, if you give your product away for free, who the hell is going to buy your product? And that's still the case now. You know, some of the huge newspaper groups make money out of digital news, but the majority of them don't, and it's a really difficult space to be in. Anyway, so when I got out in 2003, I decided I had to work for myself. There was an awful lot of other photographers on the market, but I was one of the first ones that got out because I knew the future was going to be pretty grim. So I decided that I would go into PR and then had a look at the wedding industry a little bit, but I was never really comfortable with weddings. I was a different sort of wedding photographer. I would always be, which is of course super popular nowadays, is reportage, just do my own thing, not do loads of groups and things like that.
You were ahead of your time.
Yeah, exactly. So I stuck with PR because that's where the money was at the time, really. Had a great time between 2003, 2008, 2009, mainly working in and around Newcastle for different PR companies, different companies. And then, of course, the financial crisis hit and it all turned a bit messy. Companies didn't want to pay, they wanted to take pay cuts. I still remember the Royal Bank of Scotland asking me how I could facilitate a 20% cut in my invoices to them. I only did $4,000 a year for them. I thought cheeky, so I told them what for, and I lost that job. Teesside Airport was owned by Peel Airports at the time. They asked me how I could make a 20% saving on their invoices, and I told them where to go to.
I can't blame you.
Exactly, and that happened a lot, and kind of everything dropped off. Everybody's being protected of their businesses, and I thought, God, I've got to do something about this. I've had a really good time, but right, I'm going to do weddings. I'm going to do weddings. I love weddings, mate. And I did, but very few people want the kind of stuff I was doing at the time. But at that point, it was probably coming into its own. People wanted a lot more relaxed.
Yeah.
I used to say in some of my marketing, some of my magazine adverts, my client is the bride who hates to be photographed.
Okay, I like it.
Because then I could just photograph the day, capture the atmosphere, capture the fun, and do it that way. And that's what I did. And I built up a really successful business doing that. I loved my clients. I loved doing weddings. I had some of the best times at some of the most amazing, huge weddings and some of the most amazing small weddings, both abroad and in this country.
And of course, that's how we met. So I'm very grateful that you did that.
Yeah. And I'm still in touch with all my former colleagues in the wedding industry. What a great industry. I just love it.
Oh, yeah.
And you lot have taken such a hit this last term.
Tell me about it.
Oh my goodness me. And then 2015, I got divorced. It was a bit messy. My father died, which was a bit messy. And 2014, I was doing it was all going on as well. So kind of like lost my mojo a little bit, didn't do as much marketing as I used to do. And so the numbers of weddings I was going to do in 2015 was quiet. 2016 looked really bad. But I was still kind of like working my way through personal stuff. And I had some savings, obviously, after divorce. So I was okay. And then I wasn't too sure what I was going to do. And then we used to meet up once a month, former colleagues from the Hartlepool Mail.
Okay.
We used to call it the Kit Kat Club. We used to meet in the pub, have 3 or 4 beers, talk about things that used to make us laugh 25 years ago. And the same stories came out every week, but we loved it. We had such a great camaraderie, such a great atmosphere. We were just a brilliant, brilliant team at the Hartlepool Mail. We bust our backsides. The pay was always terrible, but every one of us wanted to be in there every day because it's so funny. We laughed every day, however grim things got. So it was great to have that. And once kind of like towards autumn 2016, my colleague Paul, who used to be involved with Northeast Press at Sunderland, was previously at the Hartlepool Mail. He actually joined as a 16-year-old when I was about 21-year-old as a photographer. But he did really well. He kind of like zoomed through the industry as a commercial advertising newspaper sales guy, very well thought of in the industry. And I hadn't seen him for quite a few years till I met him at one of these things. And then one day when we'd had a few beers, he said, me and a guy I work for, we've had a really good idea. Says, we think we can do a newspaper that's better than the Hartlepool Mail. I was kind of like, really? I said, that's interesting. He says, yeah, I'm waiting to get a few figures and things like that. He said, but would you be interested to get on board? I'm like, well, my life's turned to shit. Why not? Let's give it a go. Let's fly it. So he came back the next month, said, look, we've got the cost. We think it's doable. We just need to get a team together. And he said, are you in? I said, yeah, sure. I said, I know a lot about production because I produced my own magazine while I was a photographer picture editor. Believe it or not, it's a whole other tale. I produced a magazine for 10 years, all about new, rare, and unusual perennial plants in the world.
Oh, yes.
Exactly. Sold it in 32 countries, botanical gardens, and like world-renowned plantsmen used to subscribe to my magazine. I used to be known as a preeminent perennial plant expert about new garden plants from around the world.
You have many strings to your bow. Exactly.
It was bizarre. But because of that, I knew quite a bit about the production side of putting a publication together, as well as being, a photographer of 30 odd years experience then. So I tapped up another friend of mine, Steve, who'd been news editor and editor in the past. He hadn't been in newspapers for 5 years. And I gave him the mad tale. Look, we think we can do it better. Do you want to be in? Do you want to be editor, news editor? He said, are you nuts? I said, possibly. But let's give it a go. So, and right till the day before, we had our first big meeting about planning this thing. He said, "Are you sure about this, Dirk?" I said, "Nah, not at all, not at all. But it'll fill a few months."
You went for it anyway.
Exactly. We'll fly the flag, give it a go, and just see how we go. So we had the meeting. It was a gathering of some people we knew from past life in newspapers, plus a few other odds and sods. And after the meeting, I didn't feel too hopeful. It just didn't seem to be any substance to it. But as we went along, it started to come together. We knew what the costs were. The main guy is I decided to do this together with my friend Steve was because a local businessman, a very wealthy businessman, was going to be backing it. He was a friend of Paul. And I said, well, look, if we hit some potholes in the road, if things go a bit askew and things, at least we've got a guy with pennies who can smooth things out. And, and he's a businessman. Surely he knows more than me. I worked for myself for, 17 years, but, I haven't run a business before.
Yeah.
So
you had that financial sort of backup.
Exactly. Otherwise, how do you launch a new newspaper? We knew the Hartlepool Mail was selling about 3,000 copies a night then. When we were there at the peak, it was selling 30,000. And we just thought there was a chance and an opportunity for a weekly newspaper with lots of Hartlepool news in to do really, really well. Because the Hartlepool Mail, along with, again, other regional newspapers, they decided to produce it in Sunderland. They decided to print it in Sheffield, and they had a pool of people at Sunderland and a few other places that would produce copy for 3, 4, 5 newspapers within the group, from Shields to Morpeth to Hartlepool to Sunderland. And we just thought we could do it better with our experience. So we met a few people. I wasn't over enamored with the guy who was going to be designing it. It didn't seem to me as though he had the right software and the right ideas. And then later on, he admitted that he'd never designed a newspaper before, even though he told our main guy that he had. I was like, oh my God, it's all going to go funny. But by then things were really, really moving on. We didn't announce that we were coming. We were just working in the background. We were working in the back room of a pub that this businessman owned. There was parties on downstairs. You could hear all the noise. You couldn't really concentrate. But we thought, let's do it. And so basically, there was me doing the photography, the production. Plus, I was right. I knew a lot about the history of Hartlepool because of the gardening background. I was writing a page of gardening. We were just all pulling it together. Steve was doing everything that he could. Paul was doing the distribution and the advertising. I actually went out with Paul, knocking on people's doors. And me and Paul got £1,900 worth of advertising for the first issue. We didn't even have a dummy to show anybody. We just said, everybody said, hate the Hartlepool Mail. There's no Hartlepool news in it. Yeah, we'll give this a punt. We got £1,900 for the first issue between me and Paul.
Brilliant.
I'd never really sold advertising before, but everybody seemed very keen. So we got it all together. But we had so many problems with the guy who was designing it. We were due to come out on the Wednesday. We hadn't told anybody, but we'd asked some shops to take it. And so we came out a day late because this guy just couldn't pull the production together. He had no experience in newspapers. I had to get somebody else who used to be a designer in newspapers that had never designed on a computer, but she could design really well on paper. Translate that onto the computer. Oh my goodness, what a mess. Anyway, the first one came out. It looked okay. It wasn't brilliant. We were a day late, but that didn't matter because nobody knew we were coming anywhere.
Yeah.
But the feedback was great. Everybody kind of like, even though it's not as though they could come to an office and knock on the door and say, hey, that was brilliant. Thank you. Well done. Because we didn't have an office. We just had a back room of a pub. So we stuck 20,000 copies of the paper right around Hartlepool, just dumped it off at hairdressers and cafes and community centres and all sorts of things. And we felt pretty proud of ourselves.
And rightly so. I love that you thought, what's the worst that could happen? And you were like, you just went for it. You didn't overthink it. You did your planning, but you did your due diligence. But you went for it. You didn't let any of the details.
Yeah. And the important thing about it. Sorry,
go for it.
Is that when we were pulling it together, Steve was saying, we're not going to be able to do, court reporting. We're not going to be able to do kind of like political stuff. We haven't got the resources. There's me, basically, and whatever you can write, Dirk. I said, well, we just give it a miss. And for the previous 3 years, I've done a Facebook page called Positive Hartlepool, Positive People, concentrating on all the good, positive things which were happening in town. Because Hartlepool's like most towns in the Northeast. If you scrape below the layers of destitution, poverty, world record bloody pregnancies, drug addicts, and poverty, there's actually really good community stuff happening everywhere.
Absolutely. This is like every city and town across the world has stuff
exactly.
Like that.
But in national newspapers, we're the pits of the earth, and there's nothing can be done for us all. God bless us. So why don't we concentrate on that? Why don't we just do positive news? Why don't we pull the good bits out of Facebook and the people that we know, the contacts that we've got, and just say, look, give us your good news, give us that really good news feeling. Let's build up the community. And about the same time, I was getting involved in a few other positive groups in Hartlepool. And virtually the first photographs I went out to do was with a group called St. Aidan's Kitchen, or became St. Aidan's Kitchen. Reverend Gemma Sampson at St. Aidan's Church in town has a real calling for God. She's what I call an old-fashioned Christian. She wants to be there with the people who are suffering from poverty. She works with modern day slavery. She's there for the sick and the elderly. She's all that, and she wanted to create a place where the people. Hartlepool's really lucky. It doesn't have many homeless people. The council do really well, and the facilities in town make sure that virtually everybody has a home or a place to sleep. But obviously there is a lot of poverty, an awful lot of poverty, including with children as well. And she wanted a place for people to be able to come for a hot meal, a bag of groceries and things like that. And so I was getting involved with that. There's the Big Town Tidy Up group in Hartlepool, the Plastic Free Hartlepool group. There's all sorts of different community events. Absolutely brilliant. And so the feedback from all that was great. Positive news, we love that, no politics, no crime. And as we went along, issue 2, issue 3, where we were still having production problems, the lady who was doing the designs, who was an award-winning designer, walked out on us after issue 1 because we wanted her to work with an external designer that we had to bring in because our production schedule was all over the place after issue 1. I say we were a day late. We brought in this guy. I met him at the train station on my way elsewhere. And I said, can you do this? Can you help us out? And he did, thank goodness. He was doing all the sports pages, but she decided she didn't want to do that. So we struggled through issue 2. We really struggled through issue 3. We're supposed to be sending the paper to the printers at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and sometimes it was 9, 10 o'clock at night. And it was just, oh my God. So the vibe we were getting from the public was amazing. They absolutely loved it.
I love this. Essentially, you started a business that was in what was seen as a dying format. You started it with a product that people didn't pay for. People must have said to you, are you mad, Dirk? Are you absolutely crazy?
We said that, actually.
yeah, you said that to yourselves, I'm sure. But you pushed through anyway, and your USP, if you like, was is I think your saving grace. I think everybody, there are a million newspapers, there are a million other photographers, florists, everything else, but you stood out because your USP was special. Your USP is you literally only concentrated on the positive news. Other papers, other outlets were simply just doing the stuff that sells, the sensation stuff, the
clickbait stuff, all that
stuff. Absolutely. And so that's kind of how you stand out. I mean, how did your competitors take that once you launched?
Well, obviously kind of the Hartlepool Mail made a bit of a go of it, but they published 6 days a week. We were doing once a week. They could beat us to every bit of news things, and I think they were probably quite astonished. From I still had old colleagues there, astonished at what we'd done in the first place, coming into the marketplace out of the blue. Nobody knew we were coming, and then kind of like probably looked at the good news thing, and a bit like other people in town used to say, it was, how long will this last? When you probably run out of good news. And I'm like, no, really, there's really good things happening in the community all the time. It's just we never hear of it.
Yeah.
Obviously, because of Facebook and things, you do, and you trip across stuff all the time. You're like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, I love that you wanted to paint a better picture. And
correct. Yeah, just thought it was a good vibe. After 10 years of austerity, it was kind of like we've all realized the government's going to do nothing for us. And if we don't do it for ourselves, it's just not going to happen. And that's what had started to happen already within the community, which is why I'd started the Positive Hartlepool, Positive People Facebook page a couple of years previously. And it wasn't just in Hartlepool, it was exactly the same in lots of different towns, small towns and cities in the northeast. But yeah, so that bit was my idea about putting that spin on, which did, as you said, give us a unique selling point. And the one thing that kept us going those early days was the feedback. The people couldn't get enough of it. We were printing 20,000, and we could hardly afford to print 20,000, to be fair. And cash flow. What cash flow? But they all went.
Great. Absolutely.
Paul was out. He was the allegedly distribution advertising director, and that was the production editorial production director. But we were out collecting papers and the returns, and there was very, very few of them. People loved it. Well, obviously it was free, which was a great selling point. But then straight away after issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, we were getting great feedback from the advertisers, and they were saying, "Oh man, we sold." Kind of £25,000 worth of furniture on Saturday because of your advert.
Oh, amazing! Yeah. So is this is basically how you pay for your operations? It's how you guys get a wage, just through advertising alone.
Yeah, absolutely, purely advertising. We have no cover price, and obviously in the early days, we were hopeful that the businessman would help us out and things like that. But as we got to issue 4, issue 5, me personally, who'd only joined the damn thing, I bought 2 laptops for the 2 part-time designers that we had. I bought an A3 printer so we could print the pages out full size, so we could proof them before they went to the press and things like that. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing spending my money for? Where's the guy with the pennies? So anyway, we managed to wiggle through. I was kind of like ringing up the printer and saying, look, I'm really sorry, we can't pay you at the moment, but we're expecting money in such and such. Can we pay you then? They were brilliant with us. I was the man who was ringing people up and saying, look, just give us a bit longer. I'm really sorry. Look, I'll be there. Look, no problem. Anyway, after issue 7, it just got to a point, we tried to produce, I think it was issue 4 or 5 in the back room of a pub, but it was quiz night and the production was running over. So there was the quiz on in one end, there was the music and jukebox in the other one. And I'm just like, we can't produce in an atmosphere like this, for God's sake, even though it was his premises. So after issue 7, we had a meeting, he was there, everybody was tense, stressed, and basically I just said, oh, nobody else is going to do anything. I think so. I basically said, look, you need to go, man. I said, I'm not too sure what you bring with this. He hadn't set up a business bank account. He hadn't set up a business name, created a business. There was nothing dodgy going on. He was putting it through different other accounts and things that he had. But I even to this day, I still have no idea why he wanted to be in. Probably to say he published newspapers, but he brought nothing to it. And so basically I just said, look, sling your route. You don't bring anything. You're going to have to go. And of course he gets up and says, yeah, it looks that way. Maybe I had different ideas. I thought it was going to work out a different way. I'm away and I'm off. Thanks very much. And so he goes out, close the door, and I'm just saying to the other guys, you don't have to bleep this. I'm going to hold it in. I'm just like, what are we going to do here, man? I said, this is nuts. I said, so we've got a product that we've got. I said, we've got no money to pay the bills. We got the money's coming in intermittently from the advertisers. And I said, what we're going to do? So anyway, we just decided to crack on, keep going wherever we could. And that day, and I still remember, 9th of May 2017, I went online, set up a company, one of the many websites where you can create a company, called it Hartlepool Life Limited, and created a business bank account with Lloyd's, Hartlepool Life Limited. And all of a sudden we were registered, we were up and running, and I was like, I have no idea what the hell we're doing here.
Did that bring a certain amount of pressure once it was?
Yeah, straight away. we were all in it together, absolutely, but and there was just the four of us. In fact, I think by issue 7 we'd taken on like a young reporter that had done magazine writing at university, got a degree. So there's 5 of us then. I was just like, look, head down, and we just kept going. We kept going, and every day, every week, we were desperate to get people to get the money in. Please, can you give us that money now? We'll give you a discount for the next advert if you can give us a disc now. And Paul was doing a brilliant job selling advertising. The advertisers were great, to be fair.
Yeah.
We had a lot of advertising in that paper, even in the early days. And
I love this. This hasn't been an easy journey for any of you,
oh,
right?
God, no.
You've hit potholes along the way. Even if it's not been a pothole, it's been just a hard slog, and you must have felt at some point during that, like, what are we doing? Like, do we just give this up? Yeah, I'm out.
Yeah,
I want
absolutely.
out.
Absolutely.
What made you keep going?
Because the people loved it.
Mm-hmm.
More than anything else, the feedback every week was amazing. But we knew we needed an office. We needed a front counter where people could come in and put adverts in.
Mm-hmm.
And the people had got out the habit of putting adverts in. The first people we targeted when Paul and I went out before issue 1 were the funeral directors.
Mm-hmm.
Births, marriages, and deaths were always the linchpin of a newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wanted to know. I'm just checking. I haven't died. I want to know who has died. I haven't seen him for 30 years. Or he's died.
Yeah.
People wanted to know that sort of stuff. And so we went to see all the funeral directors. They were brilliant with us. Said, the thing is, nobody wants to buy the adverts that are in the Hartlepool Mail or any other newspaper because it's £151 a time. That's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
People have just lost a loved one. They want to let people know, and then we go to them and say, look, we can do this. We can do the announcement, sort the funeral and things like that. But I'm afraid it's £151 to put your advert in. And I wrote, well, a huge amount of people saying, no, don't bother. And they would say, well, look, we put it on Facebook, but obviously not everybody's going to see it, and people of their age probably wouldn't see it at all.
Yeah.
So we just said, look, we'll put your advert, we'll put your death notices and your official death notices in our paper for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
We do it for nothing. In fact, we'll do it for a year for nothing.
Uh-huh. And the logic behind that was
they loved it. Whereas they said that even the numbers that were attending funerals had gone down because lots of people didn't know the people had died because the announcement wasn't going in the newspaper. The stuff that they were putting on Facebook wasn't reaching the right age group because a lot of those weren't on Facebook anyway. So in the end, it was almost word of mouth that people were going to funerals. But as soon as we started doing their adverts from issue 1, they noticed the change. All of a sudden, there was lots of people going to funerals because they'd seen their adverts that we gave them for free. And that was a masterstroke for us. We didn't get a penny from 4 or 5 funerals houses for funeral directors for 12 months. But after 12 months, and I'm skipping a lot of time now,
they knew how effective it was.
Right? Correct. They were in on board, and then we started to charge them £50 plus VAT, which we still do. But the Hartlepool Mail got virtually no death notices as soon as we started. They got very few anyway because of the cost. But after that, we got them all. And we quickly built it up to kind of 3 pages of death announcements, memoriams, and things like that. So when it came to the start of the second year, obviously that was worth a lot of money. There were some of the most kind of like highest grossing pages in the paper, which is stood us in good stead for year 2, 3, and onwards. Just going back again, that first year, it was, oh my God, it was a slug. I remember going to see my daughter in Leeds. I managed to get a day off.
The luxury.
Saw my daughter, and I saw her at Leeds railway station, and she burst into tears. And I said, what's up? She said, God, Dad, you look ill. You look so ill. Are you all right? Please tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. It was all to do with stress, it was just non-stop. We made a foolish mistake right at the beginning. Again, not businessmen. Are you likely to turn over £80,000 this year? In which case you should pre-register for VAT. So we registered for VAT way too early, like lots of people do, and you get such conflicting advice, even from accountants. So was it 6 months in or something like? We read our first VAT bill. I'm like, well, how the hell do we pay this?
Ouch! Yeah.
Exactly. So Muggins here rings the VAT, expecting a civilized conversation. but as I later found out, of course, you know, it's good cop, bad cop, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I got the Rottweiler from hell.
Oh,
And
no.
he's like, you're going to have to borrow the money from your mother, or you're going to have a whip round, or I'm like, mate, we can't. He said, well,
Wow.
you've generated this money. Where is it to pay your VAT bill? I said, well, it's coming in. We'll spend it on other things.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the way. And I was like, anyway, finally, we got time to pay over 3 months, and that nearly kills anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a tale. The second time I had to ring up the VAT bill because we couldn't pay again. I got this girl called Holly, still remember her, God bless her, in the Cardiff office.
Mm-hmm.
And she answered the phone straight away. Before, I'd been on for ages, and I was dreading it. I was sweating.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
nervous as hell. And so, hello, this is Holly in Cardiff VAT. How can I help you? And I'm like, well, you sound all very joyful. Holly, thank you for getting the call so quickly. I said, I've got the same problem that we had the last quarter. We haven't just got the lump sum to pay the VAT. I just wonder if we can have time to pay again. I said, we asked for that last time. We paid it over the 3-month period. You know, could we do this again? Yes, of course we can. Yeah, no problem whatsoever. And I'm like,
you were ready for a fight, but you didn't.
Exactly. And I'm like, is your supervisor moved away from the desk? She says, oh, no, I'm fine on my own. She says, I'm not trained or anything, but we can help you out there. And you could pay over a 3-month period, or you could pay over 6 months if you wanted to, or we could even extend it to 12 months. I'm like, get out of here. I says, where's your supervisor? I says, you've been very nice. How can you pay a VAT bill over 6 months or 12 months? I said, the last fella I had wanted me throw up my mother's pension. And then she said, well, let's do it over 6 months, shall we? He said, no, that really, really scares me. Can we do it over 3 months? We've done that before. We just about did it. She said, sure. She said, how about, when do you need to pay it? I said, well, I'd like to pay it in the middle of the month, because at the end of the month, we pay our staff, and I'd like to have some money there to be able to pay them. And at that point, all the staff were getting paid. Obviously, we weren't. And she said, yeah, that'll be no problem at all. She said, look, it's only about the 10th now. She said, how about if we start this payment back next month? I said, are you sure you haven't got a supervisor? I came off the phone with a whole different attitude. I was like, that was amazing.
Oh, brilliant.
How did I get such a lovely person from VAT after the last one? So that was the VAT tale. But yeah, we had bills to pay, and I was on a print all the time. I'm really, really sorry we can't pay this week, but we'll pay double next week. They were really good with us, you know, they were bloody fantastic with us.
But yeah, it's hard work, you know, stuff like that kind of really, it's the reality, I guess, of running a lot of businesses and starting something as big as you did. But it's that passion that kind of carries you through, right? And so this was how many years ago was this when you
so we launched March 2017, and we're up to about probably the September, October, which is when we, sorry, just briefly, we fell out then with the guy who was doing the design. Our deadlines were getting later and later. We weren't hitting them. The printer was getting mad about things. It was getting so stressful. And in the end, we just said, mate, you're out. I'm sorry. And he says, I'm a director. I says, I know, but it's not working. Nobody can work with you. We're hitting things too late. We've got to be slicker. We've got to be better. We need somebody who really, I said, two guys we've got in as part-time designers. They're doing most of the work, and it was still late. We just need to sort this out. I'm sorry, you're out. So we sent them an official letter. We got them solicitor involved, and then of course it all got a bit bleak after that, because it was going to take us to employment tribunal, and it's like, come on, I don't need all this really. But anyway, as soon as he was out the door, everything was much more slick. We were hitting every deadline going. It was running so smooth. The crew was happier, and you know, all the advertising stuff were happier. Nothing was going missing. Everything was getting done properly. And that's when we really kind of like started to really go. So we were really building on things by the 9th month, 10th month. It was still difficult to pay our bills every month on time, and I was forever ringing people up and going to see people. Paul was trying to get money in as fast as possible, as best as possible. But yeah, I mean, you know, even in those days, we were pulling probably about £3,000 a week in advertising.
That's amazing.
Which was pretty good, you know. But our costs were big as well, and we didn't have anything spare. You know, everybody will know about cash flow. You know, it didn't really hit me. Waiting for myself, I just wouldn't pay myself for 2 months.
Yeah, which isn't ideal, right? I mean, we've all got to sacrifice a little bit, I suppose, sometimes.
We were prepared to,
not
but
ideal.
by then we were employing 5 or 6 people, and they needed paying. So the cash flow just wasn't there, and we're fighting off the VAT and trying to pay this bill, and our 4-week credit line at the printers was 8 weeks, and then we slipped the 10 weeks. Then they were getting worried, and so all that stuff was going on. But we had a great product, we had a great team. Some of our team, even now, are in the 70s. People that we used to work with, but they just want to work 1 day a week with us, or 2 days a week. And because we're a weekly, actually nobody works full time, so we offer very, very flexible working conditions. And so we were getting there, and we had one of those meetings where we sat down after about month 11 and said, you know what, should we do another one? What, another paper? Yeah, I think we could do it. We could go into East Durham because there's a big affiliation with Hartlepool, and there's a lot of businesses out of there. On our anniversary, should we launch a second paper? I'm like, oh dear God, no. Yeah, why not? Come on.
Why not?
That was it. No
What's the worst that could happen?
Let's launch a second one. So on the anniversary of our launch, which was about 17th of March or something like that, we launched a second newspaper.
Why not?
East Durham Life. 10,000 copies for them.
Oh, love it. So we've gone from, local free Hartlepool paper, not being able to pay the bills.
Still not being able to pay the bills, yeah.
You were taking sort of £3,000 in advertising, which got you by. But fast forward a few years, what are we at now? How many issues? How what sort of what's the advertising like?
On the second anniversary of Hartlepool Life, we launched another paper.
Why not? Yeah.
Why not? And again, we just had a 10-minute meeting and said, tell you what, should we go into Teesside? We won't hit Middles because the Gazette's there, obviously, but let's do Stockton and Billingham, 2 places very like Hartlepool in many ways. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that. So about 5 weeks later, we launched Stockton and Billingham Life, set up the distribution in record time, tapped the advertisers. So we were doing 10,000 over there as well. So... I
love this. So you've now got what's that? 4 papers?
3 papers, but there's plans. So we had Hartlepool Life, we had East Durham Life, we had Stockton and Billingham Life, and so that was 2017. So that was 2019. Yeah, 2019, March 2019, we launched Stockton and Billingham Life. By then things were really starting to motor. I think in our second year, we turned over something like £400,000.
Wow!
Everybody was getting paid. We were paying the VAT. There was a few blips there. We ended up in court with the guy that was a director originally, and we won that case. Thank God, first time I'd ever been in court. But yeah, we won that case.
I'm glad to hear that.
Which was great. We were paying VAT, sometimes on time. But then we got ourselves into a bit of a muddle again. And the thing that I didn't mention was after about issue 7, 8, 9, I brought my very good friend Krimo Buabda in, who had just retired. He'd run a successful series of restaurants in Hartlepool for 30 years. He just retired. And I told him all about Hartlepool Life a couple of weeks after we launched it. He said, why didn't you tell me before you launched? I would have been involved with that. I'm like, now you say. He says, now you say. So he came on board, and if it wasn't for Cremo, we wouldn't be here, because he pumped money into us when we needed, when we were desperate at that time, in that first 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And he had business acumen. And as much as I'd run a business on previously, and Paul had too, and Steve had only worked for other people, but hadn't been in a job for 5 years. He brought a much needed stability and money, thank God, at the time that we needed, and I'll be forever grateful. And he's still a director now. He's the most wonderful guy, and we wouldn't be here without him. But in that second, third year, I threw a load of money into it as well, just so we could pay some of the big bills that were really starting to overwhelm us, because I didn't want it to fail. You know, a couple of times I was sat in the car and I was on the phone to the kids saying, look, we're going bust in 15 minutes, and I'm really, really sorry. You know, I didn't want this to be fail. And I always told you that anything I got involved with, it wouldn't fail. And they were like, Dad, don't worry about it. You know, you've got to look after yourself. You've been so ill. You've been so stressed. And blah, blah, blah. And each time we came, you know, 3, 4, 5 times, we came within 15 minutes, half an hour of going bust. And we just kept going, and we pulled out more money, or we asked people to be fair on what they needed, and we just juggled, and then suddenly we got this money in, and we did a deal with the local council where we got a lump sum up front, and then monthly amounts for the advertising that they wanted to do, which was they were great help to us. They believed in what we were doing. You know, we made a real mark in town.
Which is invaluable, really.
Oh, incredibly so. And you know, so when we launched the third one, and that we were suddenly turning over 350, 400,000 pounds a year. We did the third one. So, and then we got 2021. We had plans to launch a fourth. 2020. We had plans to launch a fourth paper, and possibly a fifth paper. We were really starting to motor then. And then a global pandemic.
A little pandemic threw a spanner in the works, hey?
So a couple of weeks before that, sorry to jump in again, I'd been to a therapist. I'd needed a therapist for quite some time. Because I had this huge fear of failure, the pressure and the stress for that. Previous 3 years have just been massive, not just on me, for everybody else as well, you know, and I was nominally the head because I said, come on, lads, we can still do this. But I had 3 fellow directors, and the pressure on them was unbelievable too. But because I was trying to do all the financial things, you know, luckily Cremo took that on. We took on a bookkeeper, and it became much easier for me. I had this massive fear of failure scenario where I would go for days and not be able to open emails and things. Which was ridiculous when you're in the newspaper. My therapist, God bless her, she was brilliant. She would always say, show me where you have failed in life, Dirk. Show me what disasters you've. Show me everything you tell me about, everything you've done, from your photography career, from your freelance career, from the magazine that you launched and did and sold it in 32 countries, from newspaper that you rescued. And show me the failure. And she was right, of course. I've never really failed, but it's that fear of failure, it's that absolute.
Yeah.
And I'm sure lots of people listen to this. You wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're sweating it, you're terrified, you feel sick. It takes a massive toll.
It really does. And you know, there's the particular sort of group of people who are listening to this. They're either, you know, new entrepreneurs, or those who are currently making the leap, you know, maybe a side hustle into a full-time job, or, you know, people around that sort of early days stage. And fear of failure is massive, and it stops them from taking that leap a lot of the time. You know, that it's that sort of caveman side to our brains that keeps us safe, as it were. You know, you think, oh, I've got this regular job and that pays the bills every month, so I'd be mad to leave it. And quite often they've got family and friends telling them that as well, like, are you mad, you're going to leave your job at the bank or whatever it is. And yeah, but I think, you know, the mark of a true entrepreneur is that, you know, you do keep going in the face of adversity. And to pick up on that word failure that you said, I mean, I'm not a believer in the word failure. You know, I think there are learning experiences in life. There are things that turn out differently than you expected, perhaps, but failure, no, not so much.
Correct. And the thing is, when you read through all these books and, you know, inspirational stories and things like that, is the majority of guys who went on to make millions and millions and millions, not that I'm saying that is a sign of success, but a lot of those guys had 3 or 4 or 5 different businesses that went the wall. Crashed, burned. But the thing is, they learned from every single thing as to what would have been the right thing to have done in particular scenarios. And you know, Paul had run his own business, Cremo had run his own business, I'd run my own business, and between us, I think we could see that the public thought we were a success, and they loved it, and they couldn't get enough of what we did. It was just getting the financial stuff sorted out. And you know, before lockdown, you know, I'd spent 6, 8, 9 months in networking meetings and meeting different financing people, you know, and it was all really interesting. Everyone was really excited about us, but to get the kind of money we needed, £100,000 for cash flow and for launching fourth paper, fifth paper, or 150,000, something like that, you know, it was going to cost you 12, 13, 14% to borrow that kind of money, which when you looked at it and all your other expenses, you think, I'm not too sure whether we need to afford this. And of course, they wanted you to be liable for it as well. You're like, come on, we've all got enough on our plates. Or to say, well, look, we could give you up to 7%, 8% over however many years, such and such, but we want 30% of your company or 40% of your company. You're like, no,
no thanks.
We're not even getting paid. It's nearly 3 years in. We're not even getting paid yet. You know, we employ 14 people. They all get paid, but most of us, we still don't get paid. You know, and we've loaned money to the companies and things. We don't want to be giving so much away straight away. But it's that rock and a hard place. But just trying to get, you know, what I learned was, and I'm sure lots of people are listening to this, how much difference would £5,000 make to the people who listen to this? How much would £10,000 make to the businesses, you know, for cash flow, and just to have that for a rainy day? It would make a massive amount of difference.
Yeah.
And trying to get that from anybody nowadays is super difficult. You know, I remember a conversation I had with Ben Houchin, and I like Ben very, very much, like lots of people do. But even he found it, you know, you want 150,000? Oh, we can sort that out. If you're in manufacturing, if you can kind of like you do this sort of business and that sort of business and IT and high tech and all the sexy stuff. I said, but the thing is, Ben, I said, there's probably 500 businesses on Teesside and Hartlepool, that sort of area, or 1,000 businesses that have lasted for 2 years, that are looking to go into a third year. They want to take more people on and create an even bigger and better business. And I said, and a £5,000 lump sum with no ties attached to somebody who can produce 2 years of accounts, that can show that they've created a stable business and already employ people, 5, 10, 15, 20,000 pounds for them, just saying, here you are, no strings attached.
Yeah.
Do it. You know, I said, the chances of a company coming to you and create 5,000 jobs is virtually zero. Sorry, but that's the truth. I said, but all those 500 businesses would within a couple of years would create 5,000 jobs. And it wasn't him particularly. It's just the government mindset and the big business mindset. But I honestly think that and you look at the eye-watering amount of money that's spent on everything in this last year, in 2-3 months, is that if you gave businesses at the end of their second year who are looking to expand and go into the third year, and they've got the business accounts, they've got a successful business, but they just need more people, more money to be able to do that, just give them it. Don't even want it back. Just say, look, there's going to be 5% of people are going to jump on the plane to Spain and say, thanks very much. You know, the 5% are they're never going to be good business people, even though their accounts look good and things like that. But the other 80, 90% will be amazing, and they'll create all those jobs that you want.
The economy keeps the economy going, and the local community, and I love it. And so I know COVID threw a spanner in the works with all of your plans and what have you. But I understand that it's kind of on the way to be back up and running properly now. Or?
Yeah, well, the great thing is, you know, after lockdown 1, we managed to get our main title, Hartlepool Life, back for 15 weeks before we were shut down again. We managed to get the other 2 papers, East Durham Life and Stockton and Billing Life, back for 10 weeks by the time we got locked down for at the beginning of November. And like many other businesses, we took pardon my French, a shitload of money off the government, business bounce back loans, which is fine. Cheapest money you'll ever get. It was the kind of money I was after before lockdown. And we took an awful lot of money for all 3 companies, but never expecting we'd be locked down a second time. Or a flipping third time. You know, like we paid £9,000 in rent after the first lockdown. We haven't even been in the building.
Yeah.
You know, and there's obviously furlough's brilliant, you know, but there's still costs, you know, pension and national insurance and other ongoing costs and things like that. But we did really well. Lockdown 1, we got £10,000 for each of our businesses, which really, really helped. And we were probably in a better financial position before lockdown 2 than we'd ever been. Because we had this business bounce back money, you know, kind of, which was going to help us an awful lot. But then lockdown 2 came out, well, not quite out the blue. We all expected it to come. So that was costing us part of the business bounce back loan. We got additional restrictions grant for Hartlepool Life from Hartlepool Council, but we got nothing for the other 2 titles. Additional restrictions 2, additional restrictions 3. We never got anything for the other 2 businesses, but we got, I think it was £940 a month, which for a company that employed 9 people and had big overheads wasn't very much, to be fair.
No.
We were just in the wrong niche, you know. Like poor directors of businesses, pay themselves by dividends, got absolutely trashed. All the freelancers in the wedding industry got trashed. We got trashed because we weren't in the right segment. We couldn't publish. The Hartlepool Mail was still publishing. All the other newspapers were still publishing because they have a cover price. We have no cover price. We're totally dependent on advertising. All of our advertisers were closed. All our pickup points, we're up to 200 community pickup points in Hartlepool and 300 and odd across our group of 3 newspapers. Well, we were doing by then close on, between 26 and 30,000 newspapers a week. So we couldn't publish. Lockdown. When we came back for December, or everybody else came back for December, we went to our larger advertisers and they said, we don't need to advertise in December. If people want to buy stuff now, furniture and things like that, we can't deliver it till March. There's no point in us advertising. All the small businesses said, we're going to be chock-a-block the next 3 weeks, so we don't need to advertise. So we thought, tell you what, we'll sit on furlough, we'll come back with a bang in January. Big style. Here we are, we're back, all 3 papers.
Lockdown.
Just like, you're having a laugh here. You really are having a laugh.
Oh, man.
But we know why and how and what, and tragedy upon tragedy. Another 5 months lockdown. Business bounced back alone. Down. We got no additional restrictions grant at all for the 2 of the papers. We were still getting like the £940, £1,100 for Hartlepool Life. Restart grants, we got nothing for all 3 companies. Didn't fit the criteria or the niche. It's like, come on, give us a break, guys. Anyway, so 4 or 5 weeks ago, we got Hartlepool Life back, thank God, and everybody's delighted. We got a huge amount of advertising. It's
brilliant.
Like £6,000-7,000 of advertising in Hartlepool Life. And then last week, we got the other 2 newspapers back. So we now have all 3 newspapers back. So right from out at Sedgefield, out to Ingleby Barrack and Thornaby, into Yarm, through to Sedgefield, outskirts of Durham, all through East Durham, right throughout Hartlepool. We're back. Advertising figures look good, and we just need a good run now. We just need a good run. We get locked down again, we're out the game like 2 million other businesses. But Boris keeps saying, we're not coming, we're not going back to lockdown. We've got to live with this. And that's what we want to hear,
I think so, yeah. It's made a lot of business. It's tested a lot of businesses.
Oh, dear me, yeah.
And but I love, this is what I love about entrepreneurs. It's the real test of it, a real strength of an entrepreneur is being able to just pivot like that really, really quickly. It's the strength of many small businesses. Where if you were, a much larger business, excuse me. It's like trying to turn the Ark Royal. It takes a long time. There's so many things in place that you have to do. Whereas a small business like this, you can just really quickly spin things around or pivot online, like a lot of businesses did.
Yeah.
But
we started doing stuff online when we were closed, just to keep people in the loop. Primo, good goodness me, took most of that on because we were all on furlough. But it kept people in contact with all the good stuff that was still going on in the community because of COVID. So, we always were going to be an old-fashioned newspaper, pick-up only. Our market really is people in their 40s right up to their 90s who generally don't buy papers. A lot of them are still not online. So we're their only, their only source of news in the week. But obviously, more and more people are online, even of older age groups, and so we've decided that we need to really do an online presence much better than we have done in the past. But I say we haven't really bothered about it because we were print only. We were retro, old fashioned, but we are pivoting by, kind of really going to expand our online digital activities. Well, but
as a digital,
it's not going to be clickbait. I promise you that. You will not see clickbait on anything.
Absolutely. No, well, it has to be on brand, as they say, and it has to be like your newspaper, but online and follow the same values. Absolutely. So, as a digital marketer, I would definitely tell you to have a good online presence.
Yeah, I say because of circumstance, we are going to. It was never our intention. We would say, I'm sorry, we're newspaper only. We started publishing our full issue as a PDF file for expats and people, but there was all these ideas when we, could send newspapers all over the world. But then the postal costs were high and we weren't too sure whether people would do it. And there's all sorts of opportunities still for us to pursue. We were just getting ourselves established. But we're in a position now, as long as we get a good run at it, we're going to launch a 4th paper, we're going to launch a 5th paper. And people are going to be really surprised about the 4th newspaper. It's still on brand, but it's a bit off piste as well.
Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. Absolutely.
You will. But we just got a great team, Most people don't work more than 3 days, 4 days a week, top whack, even our advertising staff, because we don't need to. But they'll all get full-time jobs if they want them when we do the 4th and the 5th paper. But of course, all that's been put back by a year because of COVID. When we lost some staff because, new opportunities came up for them, or they were furloughed. But most households can take a 20% hit, but suddenly a partner or a husband or a wife would get furloughed as well. And most houses can't take a 40% hit, so people have got to do what they can.
This is just to sort of hit on before we go, the thing you said there about having a good team. You've got a good team together, you've stuck to your values, you've got a product that people want and something that you're passionate about, and all of these things combined to make something successful. I think it's sometimes very little about the money. If it's only about the money for you, you could go work anywhere. You could go back to your day job or working as the stocking shelves if you wanted. But
I would earn more, to be fair.
Very probably.
I really would.
This is it. But it's a real labor of love, and this has been a long road. It's not been an easy road, but you've stuck with it.
Hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, but probably the most reward, apart from being a parent, perhaps, that's the most.
In many ways, yes, because we created something that everybody loves. Not one person we've ever had has come back to us and said, that was rubbish. Why are you doing this? Blah, 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 blah. There was a lot of that sort of feeling in the early days. It wouldn't work. What a good news newspaper. Get out. What, free? No. But we're established now. The brand is established. We're going to do 4. We're going to do 5, and after that, we've got big plans as well. Because you could do it all over the country, and that has always been our plan. But we've been knocked back. Our first year was an absolute disaster. We lost 60,000-70,000 quid. But we pulled that back to zero. Second year 3, we were going to make a really healthy profit, and then COVID hit us. But we get a run at it now, we'll keep going.
Absolutely. And that's exactly the right attitude to have, I think, because, if COVID wasn't in the way, you would be laughing right now. And so it's basically
just getting paid.
Your plans have just been delayed for a year. That's all. Honestly, I love this. You've gone from practically nothing, just an idea in a pub to
no money.
With no money.
Back room in How bad is that?
But you've got this idea that people love, and that has so much potential. And I love that you're planning on the next step all the time as well. Promise you'll come back to us and tell us in a year's time maybe, and tell us the success story of how many newspapers and how many issues you've got all over the country, because I'd love to hear that story.
We're up to about like 360 issues we've produced already, so
you must be doing something right.
From that. Exactly.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. We'll maybe do a second episode in a few months' time or so, and you can tell me how amazingly well you've done and recovered after COVID. But I've just loved you sharing your story, that you've kept going and you've kept at it and stuck to your values, and
a great team.
Well done you. Absolutely. All right. So thanks very much for listening, everyone. This has been Dirk Van Der Werff's inspirational story. I hope it's inspired you to keep going, keep pushing through, and just think what's the worst that can happen. Well, thank you so much for listening all the way through the podcast. I hope you found that really useful, and I hope you've got some actionable tips and knowledge to implement in your own small business. Please remember to click subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. And also you can catch up with me on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn.